Hello everybody and welcome back. So we're going to start by building on what we looked at yesterday with our demand and demand curves. Today we're going to look at shifting these demand curves and look at what can affect the demand for goods. Alright, so the first thing that I want you to do, and you can just do this on the side of your notes, is I want you to write down 3 things that you saw stores run out of during the last couple hurricanes, whether it was Irma, Andrew, Hermine. Go ahead and write down 3 things on the side of your notes that you notice kind of disappear off the shelves. And what I want to look at today is why the demand for these things changed during the hurricane. Alright, so the first thing I want to do, now that you've got that down, is I want to kind of recap over how we make these demand curves again. So let's remember that it'll always look like this L chart right here. And so on the y-axis is always going to be price. On the x-axis is always going to be quantity. We start low and then we work our way higher. So the lowest price we would have would be $15,000. All right, in this case we're looking at cars, right? All right, the next would be $16,000, then it's $17,000, then it's $18,000, and then it's $19,000 for a vehicle. All right, and so the key thing here, and K just means 1,000 in this case if you're confused what I'm doing there. All right, and for the quantity, again, we would start low and work our way higher. So we're looking at 60 cars, 70 cars, 80 cars, 90 cars, and 100 cars. All right, and so what this demand curve will look like. All right, so first off, at a high price, all right, is where our demand is going to be the lowest. So at $19,000, only 60 people are going to buy this vehicle. When the price gets lower, though, at $18,000, now more people are willing to buy it. At $18,000, 70 people will buy it. At $17,000, 80 people will buy it. And as the price gets lower and lower, more people are going to be willing or be more able to buy this vehicle. And so then we would have our nice little demand curve right there, and we would label it D. We're going to do some practice with this a little bit later on when we get to the activity today of making these demand curves and shifting these demand curves. Because it's something kind of hard to kind of conceive of unless you practice it a couple times. So yeah, this demand curve, let's remember, our demand curve will always go in this downwards direction. Our demand curve will always go in this downward direction because the lower the price, the higher of a demand for that good. At $15,000, more people are going to buy that vehicle than at $19,000, where only 60 people would. All right, so what we're going to look at today are some of the things that can change people's demand for goods. And we'll demonstrate, oops, let me go back real quick. And we'll demonstrate what that looks like in just a moment. All right, so let's look at the 2 big things that can change demand. First off, it's price, and then it's everything else. Let's look at what I mean by that. So let's say that we're looking at this demand curve and we're looking at it for a slice of pizza. At $1, 30 slices are going to be bought. At $2, 20 slices will be bought. At $3, not that many people, only 10 people are going to buy that slice of pizza. All right, so the first thing is if we change the price, let's say from $2 to $3, our curve doesn't actually move. We just move to a different part of the curve. Because the curve itself just looks at how much of that good is demanded at different prices. So if we go from $3 to $1, we're just moving down the curve. If we go from $1 to $2, we're just moving up the curve. So if it's a change in price, curve stays the same, we just move along it. But if it's a change in anything else, that curve will move. So let's look at this example, but with orange juice now. All right, so let's say that we're looking at we're looking at the cost of a gallon of orange juice. All right, and so let's say that we start at curve A right here. Let's say that normally at $1, we're going to buy 400 gallons of orange juice. All right, well, let's think about why over the next couple months, maybe more people are going to buy orange juice at that price, right? So I would say that probably orange juice sales have gone up over the past couple months, right? In which case at $1, instead of 400 people buying it, now maybe 600 people buy it. So if our demand is increasing, that means this curve will move to the right. And this could be for a lot of different reasons, right? I would argue, and I've been drinking a lot of orange juice lately, mainly for health reasons. I want to keep a lot of vitamin C in my body. I want to keep my immune system strong. And so because of that, I think people are buying more orange juice at all prices, right? Even if orange juice was $2 a gallon, I bet more people would still buy it now than they would 6 months ago. Same thing at $1, right? So if our demand is increasing, it's going to go to the right. If it's decreasing, it'll go to the left. All right, so let's think about it this way, right? Let's say that, think about like Peter Pan peanut butter a couple years ago, right? They had this big salmonella outbreak, and so fewer and fewer people were buying it, even at the same price. So if your demand is decreasing, an easy way to remember it is to think about Ertl the turtle. I'm not going to draw Ertl for you because it'll look terrible. But if our demand is increasing, it's going to shift, the curve will shift to the right. If it's decreasing, it'll move to the left. All right, and so let's remember that that's because, all right, if we're looking at, let's say that we're looking at pizza as an example here, right? So we're looking at pizza at $1 a slice, or we can look at it at $2 a slice. All right, so let's say that pizza is actually shown to make you really healthy, right? The cheese in the pizza helps you live a longer, healthier life. Well, instead of 400 people buying a slice of pizza at $1, now more people would be willing to do that because it's shown to be healthy. Right, at $2, before maybe like 200 people would buy a slice of pizza. But if it's shown to be healthy, more people are going to do that. On the other side of it, though, let's say that all of the grease in pizza, they find out is what causes people to have acne. Right, fewer people are going to buy that pizza at every price. So when we're looking at demand, we need to look at it in two ways. One is a change in price. Second is a change in anything else. If it's a change in price from $1 to $2, let's remember that we're just going up and down this curve. If it's a change in anything else, this curve will shift because people are going to buy different amounts of that good at different prices. And again, if you're having trouble wrapping your head around it, it usually takes a little bit of practice before it starts to make a little bit more sense. All right, so let's look at it a different way. Let's say that we're looking at me and my wife going out to eat dinner, right? So if you're looking at a meal being $30, we might go out on, or like, let's say that for each of our meals it's $30. We might do that like once a month. We might go out on a nice date and eat somewhere nice and both of our meals be $30. But that's kind of pricey, so we're not going to do it very often, right? If it's $20, that's still a little bit much, so maybe we would do that twice a month. $10 a meal, that's not that big of a deal. We would do that a little bit more often. So we've got our nice little demand curve right here. All right, but things can shift around that, right? So let's say that my wife and I were to win the lottery, our income were to increase. Then it wouldn't really matter to us anymore. We'll probably eat whatever we want. So that $30 meal, we might eat 3 times a week. And like we can make this a little bit bigger. So we'll say this 4 times a week, or like 4 times a month, 5 times a month. So at $20, we're going to eat out more. At $10, we're going to eat out more. So if we won the lottery, then our demand is going to increase significantly. However, let's say that one of us were to lose our jobs. Let's say that one of us had to stay home to take care of a kid or something like that. All right, then our demand for eating out is probably going to decrease. We'll probably cook at home a lot more. So at $30, we probably might not be able to eat out there anymore. $20, maybe we do that like twice a month. All right, and then at $10, let's say like once a month. All right, and then at $10, maybe we could do that, twice a month. So if our income were to decrease, our demand for all goods would really decrease. We wouldn't be eating out as much. We wouldn't be buying as many new clothes. We wouldn't be moving into a newer house. But vice versa. When my wife and I left college, our demand for all normal goods increased. We bought new clothes. We got newer vehicles. We bought a house. All right. But the opposite is true for an inferior good. An inferior good is one whose demand decreases when your income goes up. An easy way to think about this, everybody's family's got that one meal that they kind of eat. If you get paid at the end of the month and you got like 2 or 3 days left. For my family growing up, it was SpaghettiOs. And I'll tell you that since I've left college, I haven't had SpaghettiOs once because I think they're disgusting now. But they're dirt cheap. Whenever I was in college, it was corn dogs and mac and cheese. You could have a meal for that for like $1.50. All right, but since my wife and I got my teaching job and her lawyer job, our demand for that corn dogs and mac and cheese have dropped. I probably only had it once or twice since we've graduated from college. So normal goods are anything that follows the normal law of demand. That if the price of a good, or if your income goes up, then your demand for it will go up as well. An inferior good would be the opposite. Since my wife and I have more money now, we don't eat, sloppy joes every day. We don't eat corn dogs and mac and cheese every day or SpaghettiOs. Those would be inferior goods for us. For some of you, it may be Spam or maybe rice or whatever. But yeah, so an inferior good is one where if you make more money, your demand for it actually drops down. All right, and so there's a lot of different things that can affect your demand for a good. Again, these are all things that would shift the demand curve. So first off is the price of related goods. So let's think about complementary goods like, let's say we're looking at a burger and a drink at McDonald's. So those would be complementary goods. So if you look at something like the Platinum Card, all right, so they offer you free things along with that, like free fries. All right, so if you're wondering why they would do that, it's because the expectation is that if you go there and buy fries, you're also going to buy a drink. You're also going to buy a burger along with it, because your demand is going to go hand in hand with one another. If you buy the burger, you're probably also going to buy the fries. So with complementary goods, if the demand for one goes up, the demand for the other will go up as well. Substitute goods would be the opposite. So substitute goods would be like McDonald's and Burger King. All right, and they would have the opposite effects of demand. So if, let's say that the prices of McDonald's went up, then the demand for McDonald's is probably going to go down. But at the same time, if the price of McDonald's goes up, the demand for Burger King will probably go up as well because fewer people are going to eat at McDonald's. So they would be substitute goods for one another. Another good example for me is Dr. Pepper and Dr. Thunder. Right now, I usually drink Dr. Thunder, which is the Walmart version of Dr. Pepper, because it's cheaper. But if the price of Dr. Thunder were to go up, I would probably start buying more of the Dr. Pepper because it's a substitute good. All right, consumer expectations also factor into demand, right? So if you look at things that my wife and I did whenever we first heard that this pandemic was hitting China, right? We started hearing about how bad it was. All right, and so some of the first things we did is we started stocking up on food. All right, we bought extra toilet paper, not because we thought we were going to need it, but because we assumed that other people were going to go and buy it as well. All right, and so our demand increased for these things because we expected them to be gone in the future. Right, the same way that if you look at a place like Target, right, pretty soon they're going to start having like sweaters and jackets and things like that up there, even though it's still 90 degrees outside. The reason they'll have it there is because we have the expectation that pretty soon it's going to be cold, so we're going to be buying these things pretty soon. All right, the number of consumers matters, right? If you look at, let's say, houses in Glenn County, let's say we're looking at houses for $100,000, $200,000, and $300,000. All right, and let's say that we're looking at people buying, or 10,000 people buying the houses, 20,000 people, and 30,000 people. All right, so at $300,000, only 10,000 people are going to buy these houses. That's a pretty expensive house. At 200,000, now more people are going to buy it. At 100,000, a lot of people are going to buy these houses. All right, so what we've noticed over the past 5 or 10 years is a lot of growth up there around the Harry Driggers area. A lot of new neighborhoods popping up. That's where we've got Sam's Club now and all those restaurants around there. And so the population of Brunswick has increased significantly. We've gained by about 10,000 people over the past 10 years. And so because of that, more people are going to buy houses at 300,000. More people are going to buy houses at 200. And more people are going to buy it at 100,000. Because we've got more people, every one of those people needs a place to live. They need food. They need shelter, clothing. And so the demand for all goods is going up. On the other side of things, like if you've ever seen the movie Cars before, they built this big highway around this town. And so because of that, more and more people started leaving the town. All right, and because of that, their demand for all goods decreased. You know, fewer shops open, fewer restaurants, fewer houses. All right, and so the population directly affects demand as well. That's why, as more people moved to Brunswick, they built that Sam's Club. That's why they built, you know, the extra McDonald's over there and all those other restaurants, because our demand is a lot higher now. And another big one that we have that influences demand is advertising, right? If you look at Air Jordans back in the 90s, all right, they had this big advertisement campaign of Michael Jordan just dunking over people, and they really made it like a status symbol kind of thing. Same thing with beads. All right, and so the advertisement for this is what drove up the demand. It's not the quality of the material. If you look at a pair of Jordans compared to a normal pair of tennis shoes, an average pair of tennis shoes costs about $3 to make. An average pair of Air Jordans like $5 to make. And they're even made in the same factories. So the thing that sets them apart are the styles and the advertisement that goes into it. And the opposite is true for other things as well. If you look, I'm sure at some point you've seen cigarette commercials or those really terrifying billboards to stop you from using crystal meth. They're aimed at shocking you to never try these products. They're aimed at lowering down your demand for these goods. All right, so we already talked about this a little bit. Changing consumer income will directly affect your demand. All right, so let's say that my wife and I won the lottery, right? We'd be more likely to buy a house at all of these prices. But vice versa, if one of us quit our jobs, our demand would decrease. We're not able to, we couldn't afford the $200,000 house or the $300,000 house anymore. Our demand for all of those would decrease. All right, so I'm going to pull this up whenever we switch over, or in a second I'm going to ask you to switch over to the Google Meet. I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to want to talk about this together. All right, so you can go ahead and put this on pause. We'll switch over to the Google Meet and let's talk about this chart together.